of the southeast. It looks like Leta has that, what would be considered the third expansion for the southeast, but Fantasy in control of the main starting position there, or maybe the natural expansion. Anyways, close quarters for both of them, but Leta moving out in with huge amounts of drops right now, and he is going to be trying to take position towards Fantasy's original main base, and he might be going all the way into the main base. He's sieging over the ridge and trying to do a little bit of damage to whatever he can find over there, and Fantasy is reeling to try to defend that. So Leta doing a nice job of at least diverting Fantasy's attention and putting him on the defensive once again. So Leta has been able to keep himself in this game, and it looks like he's sending some SCVs over to a new base. So I think all that he is mining at, though, right now is at the 10 o'clock position and 1 and 2 o'clock. So he is on 3 bases, I think. Fantasy is probably mined out as main and natural as well, but he has the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and I believe the 9 o'clock is still running for him. So I guess 3 bases versus 3 bases, and I'm not sure exactly where the upgrades have gone now. I would like to see that, because I was thinking that Leta would be able to get at least a temporary advantage in terms of upgrades because he built his science facility a little bit earlier, but so far haven't been able to tell. They decided that this missile turret is much more exciting than anything else that they could show. Still, Leta hasn't even tried to take back that refinery that he lost over in his 10 o'clock base, so he is still down 1 gas on one of those, one of the expansions that he has up and running. It looks like he is gathering up his troops in his dropship, so he might be ready to go and mobilize maybe towards this group of forces over there at the 9 o'clock, maybe somewhere else. It looks like Leta's pretty happy just establishing a little bit of defenses and getting position in that sieged up area just outside of the main base of Fantasy, and that's becoming a little bit of a point of contention. Fantasy not too happy with it, but it's really not doing all that much damage for Leta. He's just kind of being a pest, being able to pick away at supply depots. Leta now moving in and trying to deal with this group of forces down at the 9 o'clock, but a single vulture is going to slow that down a little bit, and I think Leta actually wants to take the base at the 9 o'clock, but he is just trying to march his tanks over and siege up against Fantasy's tanks, which I don't know if it's the best idea. I mean, there are a few missile turrets in the area, but I think just moving it with dropships is going to be a lot more effective. 1 Goliath bomb on that should be able to clear out most of those tanks, but Leta doing it the slow way and maybe the more risky way. But yeah, at the moment, I mean, let's see, what else can I talk about? It's getting into the slow Terran versus Terran map control position, and I'm always pressed for things to say at this point in the game, but let's see, Sparkyz is up 2-0 against SKT1. Once again, this is the last game of round 2 of the 9-10 Pro League season for Sparkyz. So Sparkyz, after coming into round 2 as cold as possible and just losing tons of games early on in round 2, has now had a little bit of a win streak and are in position to win their last game as well, and which would be another victory against SKT1. That would be beating them twice, which would be pretty awesome. I think the only other team that they beat twice would be like Air Force, maybe. I don't know, I'd have to think about that. That's just off the top of my head statistics, which are never the most reliable. Now an SCV fight going on up at the northeast. That was a little funny, but I think Fantasy may be just trying to clear out some of his SUVs. Doesn't have enough minerals to be mining with them at the moment. But still, I think both players are pretty even right now, and I think it's really critical right now. Oh my god, Leta is just leading in with that command center. He built a command center and sending it over to the 9 o'clock, and it is just taking fire from those missile turrets. Meanwhile, he is pushing down towards the southeast into that natural expansion, and he might be able to do a little bit of damage here. Fantasy is at least distracted by that command center floating over at the 9, but he is finally reinforcing with his dropship troops, and I think that is going to be enough to stop Leta's attack down here. Meanwhile, I don't know where Leta's at in the 9 o'clock. He really needs to take that base. If he could take that base, he would put himself in a very nice position right now, but so far, still in danger and still trying to siege over those little hills and take that base the slow Terran way. At the same time, Fantasy coming in, nice play here. He is, dropping on those forces that were attacking in the southeast and completely clears them out. And Leta is just sending SCVs on there. There's only one tank left, but seriously, I mean, I guess he needs to bleed some of those SCVs anyways. But I really think that he could have dealt with this with like 2 or 3 dropships and a couple Goliaths much earlier in the game, and it looks like Fantasy has built a pretty sizable amount of starports. He might be going for a lot of late game wraiths right here. Finally, Leta has taken that 9 o'clock position and is building a command center there, which means I think he lost that original one that he was floating over there quite stupidly. I do not know why he was doing that. I'm sure he must have scanned it and seen that there were missile turrets there. I can't imagine that Leta would float a command center somewhere without scanning it first. And there it is, Fantasy with a huge group of wraiths right here, and this is going to be pretty bad. Yeah, this is going to be probably really bad for Leta. He does still have a good number of Goliaths, but oh no, and a big drop coming in. So Fantasy dropping on that 9 o'clock position, being able to stop it from going up. That is a lot of tanks in those dropships. Those dropships were just full of tanks. I don't think they had anything else in them. But Fantasy is going for huge amounts of wraiths. Plus he's got this huge dropship force filled with tanks, and this is going to be critical right now. Leta needs to get this base up. Fantasy needs to defend it. He's got at least a dozen wraiths right here going around picking off stray siege tanks that Leta has around the map, and Leta just has to defend this. He has to find some way to stop these wraiths. Even more wraiths being produced. This is oh no, and those wraiths coming in and finding that dropship force, although a lot of them, they get scanned and a lot of them being killed off by the Goliaths. Leta has a lot of Goliaths in with his army now. He must have spotted out this wraith strategy. This is a strategy that we've seen him use a couple of times late game, where he will just build mass wraiths and pick away at all of his opponent's tanks, and now Fantasy is employing that strategy, but Leta seems to know how to defend against it because he just has at least 1-to-1 Goliaths and tanks, probably 2-to-1 Goliaths and tanks, and he's actually being able to push in and doing sort of a dual-pronged attack right here between this 5 and 6 o'clock base. So a couple Goliaths moving in towards that 5 o'clock base, being able to kill off all of the SCVs and stop mining completely. The command center is under attack. Meanwhile, he is also simultaneously pressuring all of the forces that are over there defending the 6 o'clock base as well. So Leta finding a very opportune time to and a very opportune place to attack at 2 fronts. It looks like Fantasy was not mining at the 5 o'clock position, or excuse me, the 6 o'clock position, but he was at the 5 and is no longer. So Fantasy has this mass group of wraiths, but apart from killing a couple of dropships, he hasn't been able to do too much with them. Finally bringing a couple more in to do a little bit of damage to the tanks, but losing them to Goliaths. Leta doing a very good job of keeping Goliaths around all of his tanks, and now it looks like he is at, maybe that's 3-1 for his ground weapons, and Fantasy they're showing here is 1-1 for air weapons and armor in terms of upgrades. I don't know where his tanks are upgraded though, but Leta at max damage tanks, but not at max armor. And so yeah, but Leta's been able to hold off and continue to control that 5 o'clock position. He hasn't been taking that as his own base, but he has been able to prevent Fantasy from mining at it, which is going to be clutch. I mean, really resources are starting to get thin all across the board right now, and every mining base is going to be valuable. Leta was unable to get that 9 o'clock base up and running for himself, but critically he was able to stop the base at 5 o'clock, so probably keep himself in this for a little bit longer, but honestly I don't know where he's mining really. I don't think he has... He definitely doesn't have any minerals in his main or natural. I think that the